Welcome everybody this morning to the Urban County Policy Board, November 10th, 2025. And we are in session. We do not yet have a quorum. We're hoping to have one soon, but we'll go ahead and move forward with the agenda at this time. And let's start with the introductions. I'm Glenn Young. I'm County Counsel and Service Chair of the Urban County Policy Board. Rebecca, do you want to go ahead and call people?
Yes, I can do that. Deanne Cortez.
Hi, my name is Deanne Cordes. I'm the contract administrator for Clark County.
Jim Hodges.
Jim Hodges, representing the city of Camas.
Chris Swanson.
Chris Swanson, city manager for Battleground.
Marisa Smith.
Hi, Marisa Smith. I'm with Clark County as finance manager for internal services.
Michelle Schuster.
Michelle Schuster, Director of Internal Services, and I also see the Property Management Committee for the county.
Counselor Ferrer.
Victoria Ferrer, counselor for Battleground.
Andrea Forstag.
Hello, I'm Andrea Forstag, and I'm representing the Hispanic Metropolitan Chamber.
We have a call-in user. Can you please identify yourself?
This is Max Booth from Battleground, Washington, Maddox Industrial Transformers.
Thank you. I think I have everyone. Oh, Mayor Cole, sorry.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Matt Cole, Mayor of City of Ridgefield.
I think I have everyone that is joined online in the room. Rebecca Royce, Program Coordinator, staff to the board.
Michael Torres, Program Manager, Community Services.
Noreen Ibrahim, Program Assistant, Community Services.
We also have visitors. Would you mind introducing yourselves?
My name is Darius Berrigan, and I'm a citizen of this county.
And my name is Chris Grewell. I am a citizen of Battleground.
My name is Amelia Mead, and I'm a citizen of this county.
Thank you. I don't see anyone else in our meeting at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Let's go ahead and move on to item number 2, which is public comment. And there are a few individuals in the room and perhaps some online, but we'll go ahead and start with in the room.
Okay, good morning. My name is Darius Berrigan, and I'm a resident of Clark County. I'm also the Real Estate Development Coordinator at Maddox. And today I'm here to make public comment regarding the county's building that CMAR utilizes at 701 East Main Street in Battleground. Our team expressed interest in purchasing this building a little over a year ago under the impression that it was vacant. Our ultimate goal is to revitalize this asset on Main Street by opening a business and addressing some of the parking challenges that the city and the community are currently facing. Unfortunately, this building is not well maintained and it does lack curb appeal. This former bank with a drive-through turned into medical office is dilapidated. And while we recognize and appreciate the vital services that CMAR provides, we believe that the property's prime location can be better utilized. The building's exterior and parking are poorly maintained with issues such as towed vehicles and graffiti markings on the building. We'd love the opportunity to purchase this building and to transform it into a space where a thriving business can be placed that also provides some much needed parking, benefiting the entire community of Battleground. We also believe that CMAR could be relocated to a much more suitable facility to better serve its clientele. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Chris Grewell. I'm a resident of Battleground and work in the community as a project manager. Last summer, I managed 2 renovations within a block of the WIC building. One was a small house on Clark Avenue, and the other was the Alan Ernie's Coffee Shop on Grayson, Maine, which has since become a hub for the community and has added vibrancy to the downtown area. Because of the proximity of these projects, I spent a lot of time walking past the WIC building and began to take note of a few things. For a long time, I believed the building was abandoned. The property was frequently littered with trash, covered with graffiti, and saw almost no foot traffic. In fact, in all that time, I only saw one person enter or exit. That sighting actually surprised me. It made me realize the building was still in use. The only consistent activity I noticed was related to parking enforcement. We counted up to 7 vehicles towed in a single evening after 4 p.m. One of those vehicles even belonged to the cleaning staff. That told me that someone somewhere was watching the security feed closely, even if the building itself didn't reflect the same level of care. I want to be clear. I believe that the mission of CMAR and the WIC program, they offer essential services to families in need, and I support that. My concern is whether this particular building is the highest and best use of such a prominent location in our downtown core. Perhaps there's a more suitable location elsewhere in the city, somewhere that doesn't carry the same visibility or commercial potential, like the Allen Ernie's coffee shop that I mentioned earlier, or the new farmers market. At the same time, I recognize the challenges nonprofits face with funding. I understand that the building put together an estimate in 2019 for a renovation at a cost of about $1.7 million. That's a major investment, especially for a grant-funded operation. As someone who works in construction management, I regularly update pricing for renovations. Based on current market conditions, I estimate that the same renovation today would cost about 35 to 45% more than the pre-COVID pricing, or roughly $2.4 million. I think that makes raising funds even harder. Still, I think we owe it to the community and to organizations like CMAR to ask thoughtful questions about visibility, maintenance, and whether this building's location is serving both the organization and downtown Battleground as well as it could. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Is anyone online would like to provide public comment?
I would if I'm able.
Go ahead.
Thank you. This is Max Booth. I attended last month's Urban County Policy Board meeting related to the same topic. And I had a couple of follow-up questions and then want to kind of maybe reiterate our position on this. The bottom line, as Chris said, is we are supportive of WIC and CMAR, their programs and what they work to accomplish. And our goal really here is to do something that would be a win-win-win for both CMAR, the city of Battleground, and for all the other business owners on Main Street. Having an operation there that drove a bit more foot traffic would be beneficial to the other retail operations in town. And so our aim is to do something like that while helping solve the public parking challenges that the city is currently facing. We, as you've already heard, we're interested in purchasing this building over a year ago because we thought no one was using it. Our concern is the way that the building is being used made us wonder how necessary the building is to the operation. Last time we were told that there's 1,200 appointments or clients per month that are served from this location. Based on our kind of constant activity in downtown, we can't see how that's possibly the case, at least not in person. And I was curious if there was a breakout or a number on how many of those appointments are virtual versus how many of those appointments are in person. Quick math, at 1,200 appointments or customers a month, there'd be 7 or 8 people per hour in that building all day, every day. And nothing ever like that's happening. You also mentioned there was 12 staff members. We've never seen more than a couple of cars in that parking lot. So I'm curious if all 12 of those staff members work there at that location, or if some of those are remote or working for the locations. At the end of the day, depending on the answer to this question, there may be a way we can find a solution that will work for everybody here. Our current proposal, if the board decides and the council ultimately decides to sell this building at market value, would be to make a fair offer, a generous offer on the building, be cooperative with the county, understanding the restrictions and limitations, or I should say, the challenges you have with the timeliness issue on the fund balance. So we could work with you on timing of that to make that as easy and painless as possible. And we would also be willing to let WIC continue to use the building for the next couple of years for no more than they're paying now, or even free, while we put together our plan for revitalization. And so that's basically where we stand. Our request and our recommendation today, our ask today, is that this building be offered for sale to the public at a fair market price. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Is there
Rebecca,
any other for public
sorry.
comment? Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, sounds like we have completed public comment. Thank you for your information. I just wanted to make one thing clear too. I'm sure that everybody is well aware in this room, but for the public that may be watching this video or a meeting live, the building, there's really two options. One would be that the building would be transferred to ownership of CMAR for $1, or the property would be sold at market value, and that would be an open competitive process. So it wouldn't be that one single person commenting in the meeting would be able to have a special deal on that property. It would go to the public for sale. So moving on, thank you again for all of your comments. I appreciate them. Do we have a quorum yet?
Yes, we've had two people join that I'd like to have them introduced,
Sure.
if that's okay, Counselor.
Yep.
We have Joe Walsh with the City of Washougal. Joe, can you verify you're here?
I am here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Alyssa Grant, can you identify yourself?
Yes, good morning. My name is Alyssa Grant with CMAR.
With CMAR, thank you very much.
Great. All right, so having a quorum, let's go ahead and move to item number 3, which would be approval of October 13th meeting minutes. Does anybody have any corrections to make?
I'll move
Okay.
to approve those minutes.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 And any opposed? Great, motion passes. All right, let's go ahead and move to item number 4, county-owned building discussion. And go ahead, Rebecca, let us know what has happened since we last met.
Yeah, so I'm just going to do a brief overview of the conversation that we had in October, and then what the options were that were presented, along with the discussion points that had been requested. So we'll go over just a couple of slides before we open it up for more discussion. So this is, again, a continuation from our October meeting that we're discussing the county-owned building that was purchased by with CDBG funds back in 1993. The building has been leased to CMAR since 2009 for WIC services. It is in need of significant renovations. Based on the 2019 Meng report, it needed about $1.7 million in renovations to bring it up to current standards. The county has been approved for a $200,000 grant out of the program year 2025 funds to go towards the renovations of the building. And it has also been recommended by Senator Murray for $1.7 million of congressionally directed spending. The congressionally directed spending funds are contingent on Senate appropriations approval and full budget appropriations being passed, which has not happened yet. At the October meeting, Michelle Schuster presented 3 options that for the board to discuss. The first is to sell the building to CMAR for $1 with a minimum of 5-year restricted use covenant. With this, there would be no effect to the county's timeliness issues. There would be no additional investments needed by the county, and CMAR would make renovations needed to the building. Option 2 is to sell the building at fair market value. This will impact the county's timeliness ratio with a high likelihood of losing CDBG funds to HUD. There would be no additional investments needed by the county, and CMAR would need to find a new location to provide WIC services in the area. Option 3 is no change, just continue as status quo, but based on the conversations in the October meeting, this was not an option that the board would like to pursue. During the meeting, there were requests for additional information, and there's representatives from CMAR here to discuss some of these. I'm going to go over them really quickly. The first was for CMAR to confirm the current cost to renovate the building and confirm their ability to do those renovations. They were also going to research some options to relocate services in Battleground. Battleground Council was going to discuss options to help CMAR relocate. For the county, the requests were to determine if county can require a nonprofit to maintain a building if a new building was purchased and leased. We were to research if the sale of the building can be held contingent upon purchase and relocation of CMAR. We were asked to research if the county can do a targeted request for application to help a nonprofit acquire a space using CDBG funds as a grant. And we were asked to research or provide information about what would happen to the $200,000 of program year 2025 funds that have been already allocated to the CMAR building. With those, I would like to turn it over to CMAR to discuss the first two discussion points.
Hi, I'm Nick Ramirez. I'm the Senior Vice President at CMAR. I oversee the WIC program at CMAR, which is why I am speaking here. One of the things that we were asked to do is to confirm the cost and ability to provide the renovations for the building. I've consulted with our architect. The fees are a little bit higher since that estimate was made several years ago. For the entire renovation, we are looking at around 1.7 million. I think the most immediate item that our architect discussed was the roof, which has some leaks and has some issues around that. But we did confirm that we would be able to do the identified improvements and renovations to bring it to a more functional status, which would allow us to provide the WIC services that we've been providing out of that building. On item 2, I believe you'd like me to discuss that as well. We do have some options. As you mentioned, we've been in this location for 15 years almost. So we do have some options. We could ask the state to allow us to move our location to one of the other sites. We do have 8 locations in Clark County. I think the closest would be several miles away. That is an option. But again, our staff is comfortable in this location, and we see a need in this area as well.
Okay, thank you for that. I've got a couple questions to start with. You said that the prices have gone up, but you said 1.7 million again. So is it your intention to do less repairs than the county had originally anticipated, or how does that balance out?
Yeah, so I think we would do it piece by piece, but I think the overall costs, the renovations would be done by our internal construction crew. I think originally we had estimated a little bit lower, but it is we are able to do things a little bit less per square foot than other construction companies. So that's why we ended up around that 1.7 mark again.
Okay, and so 2 miles away, which direction?
Oh, I said several miles away. I think our closest existing location is to the south, but I have to verify. But we have a building in Salmon Creek. We have Fourth Plain, and then several different locations scattered throughout Clark County. So we would probably look at the nearest location that we have, which I believe is Salmon Creek.
Okay, and then did you guys, we had asked also for you to look into the feasibility of relocating in, close to there, but just in a different building, one that you don't have to do all the repairs to. Did you have a chance to do that?
No, we did not do that. I think for us, if this is not an option for us to take over the building, we would look at our existing locations to see where we might be able to move our services. But we have not looked to
Okay, is it
relocate
that
in the
I'm just
vicinity.
trying to understand, is it that you haven't looked or that you are unable to do something like that?
So it would be an additional cost to us. So we would look to position ourselves in an existing location where we have space that's approximate, and we'd have to go through state approval for that.
Okay, so it is something that you can do if it works dollar wise, or
Yes,
please give us as much information as you know about that possibility.
yes. So we would be able to do that. However, if we have the choice between looking at another lease location versus using existing space, right now we would likely choose to use our existing space that we own, so that we're not incurring additional costs.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the board?
Yes, Victoria Ferrer, City Council. I'll put my camera on so I'm not being rude.
Victoria, can you hang on just a second? I apologize. Michelle Schuster raised her hand a long time ago.
I'm sorry, yeah.
And then I'll come back to you.
Yeah, that's fine. So I just wanted to mention that when CMAR said that their number would probably be around the 1.7, that could be accurate because the county, if the county still owns the building, the county has to use county resources, we have to pay prevailing wage rates. Where if CMAR owned the building and could pay with their own funds, they would not be paying at prevailing wage rates. And so they're going to be able to do a remodel much cheaper than we can do on a county-owned building with county funds or state funds if we were awarded the state allocation. So that probably is also one of the reasons they're still coming close to that 1.7 number, even though we've had multiple years since that study was done. So I just wanted to let people know that.
Great, thank you. Okay, go ahead, Victoria.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask CMAR, maybe you could address what the, so you mentioned that there's a great need here in Battleground, and I don't doubt that there's a need everywhere, especially in the North County, but how those needs are being met specifically in this space, because I know that there was some public comment made that there's not a lot of cars there at this facility. I've also been there, tried to get in a few times just to talk to staff, and it's been locked, which it was made known to me later that, well, it's appointment only. The doors remain locked because of safety reasons when there's only one staff member in there. And usually sometimes there's two, but sometimes there's only one. And yeah, so could you address that, please, sir?
Yes. So with our program, we try and meet patients where they're at. Whether we do it via phone call or telehealth, we try and meet patients where they're at. We've had a lot of success being able to engage patients without them having to come on site. So we do both. We do on-site services and we do web-based services. It's relatively easy. People are getting more comfortable with being able to discuss the WIC services in that hybrid fashion. But we do have patients that come on site for those services. And our model is that we have 4 positions at each of our sites. However, we do shift our staff between different locations to provide access and resources. And we do have members of our team that go out in the community and try and recruit patients and make our services known. So there's a lot of things that are happening at each of our locations, and we try and cover through the county as best we can. There are those instances where it is one person, and we do try and allow our staff to focus on the visit that they are engaged with. But at the same time, we want to have accessibility to the community and provide resources in person as well as the hybrid model.
Can I do a follow-up to that, Chair?
Go ahead.
I was just wondering, do we have like a percentage of the numbers on how many people are coming in person versus how many are over the phone or virtual, maybe Zoom?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but I would roughly it would be about 60% via Zoom or phone. That's the typical range that we've seen.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor, may I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
Nicholas, you had mentioned that if you were to move the services to another location, you would need to get state approval for that. Can you explain that process and how difficult that would be?
Yes. So our process with the state, so we have to have approval. We can only be a certain amount of miles away from another WIC location. And so typically we communicate with the state, and then we have them approve. And as long as there's nothing in, an immediate zip code, we're typically able to get that approved. I don't know where the nearest WIC office is, but we would have to review that.
I've got a quick question, Michelle. What is the current assessed value of the building, and do we have a market assessment of the value at all?
No, we do not have a market assessment of value. We would need to get funds approved to do something like that because those cost us usually about $3,000 to do one of those. And if you give me a moment, if you have other questions, I can look to see what the current county assessed value is on the property. If you want, just give me a moment.
Sure. And the reason I'm asking that is because, and I don't know the market at all in Battleground, but my question is the proceeds from the sale of the property, in addition to the 1.7 million that you would invest into repairs, are you, when you say that it would be more cost to you, are you suggesting that it would be more expensive than that to find another property?
So if we're looking at another property, yeah, I don't have that answer. I just know that it would cost us money to move to one of our other locations, but it would just be more efficient. And so I don't know which cost would exceed which, whether we do the renovations on the existing building or find another space in one of our existing buildings versus leasing another. I don't have that cost estimate. I just know that we were approached with this opportunity. We wanted to, if that's a benefit and a plan that is, beneficial, we wanted to pursue that because we've been here providing services, and there's definitely a need for it. We wanted to do that. So to answer your question, we have not done that cost benefit analysis. Between the two options, we would try and be as efficient as we possibly can.
Okay, understood. And the one thing I would point out too, though, is I know there's a cost with moving, but there's also a significant cost with remodeling. And just it's a nightmare, especially to the extent that building is going to need to be repaired. You're going to be moving stuff back and forth here, back over there, back around, and all that. It's going to be a lot of disturbance. Michelle.
Yeah, so the building right now from the county's assessment is valued at about $467,000. That's for the land and the building. The land, it's saying is about $98,000, which I think is low. And then the building value, it's saying is about $369,000. And we do know that we would never be able to recoup that $1.7 million that put into that building. It will never be valued at that, even if we put all that money into it. So we are aware of that, but yeah, its current value is not real high at the moment with its current conditions.
So I mean, you consider $500,000. Who knows what it would sell for? But $500,000 and 1.7, that's 2.2 million. I don't know how far that would take you, in near downtown Battleground.
Yeah, I think the other thing, so if we had the ability to take this building over, I think the other potential that we would have is to have other support services like maternity support services that would allow us to cancel out some of the investment costs. Again, maternity support services often goes hand in hand with WIC, and it's additional community resources, but it's also a different avenue for us to recoup some of those initial investments. And we realize that it would be a long-term investment, but we're confident that with some of the expansion of services, we could cancel some of those things out, and it would be a benefit, a net benefit to us and to the community, as we discussed.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Chair Victoria Ferrer, Battleground.
Go ahead.
I just have a question, and maybe this has already been addressed. If this survey was done back in 2019, and we knew obviously back then that the building was in disrepair, it was, dilapidated, and we knew how much the cost was going to be. I'm just curious, why are we talking about this? I'm new to the board, so I don't mean to be disrespectful or rude. I'm just, a question that's coming up is, why is it taking us 6 years to have this conversation, and why haven't the repairs already been made to this building? I know it's county owned, so why weren't we looking at potentially going after funding before for this building when it might have made more sense?
Do you mean to talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
Yeah. So we did the Meng study, not just on this building, but on a lot of county properties. We actually went through and did a comprehensive on quite a few. The Meng report came back with over $330 million worth of repairs across many county buildings that need to be done. The county does not have that kind of money to put into something right away. And so we've been going through and prioritizing projects through our capital planning. I have approached past councils, not the current council, about getting some money to upkeep this building, and those have been turned down in the past. And so it got to the point where we were sort of hitting this building in our planning stages of facilities, and we brought this up as a work session to the council. There was time to look at, were we ready to put some money into this building, or did we need to look at other options? And so that's what started this whole conversation that's led us here. And that's been about a year process now that we've been discussing things. But unfortunately, the county does have a lot of buildings with a lot of outstanding maintenance on them, not just this building. So it is a big process to go through all of that information.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is Michael Torres. I just would also like to add to that. And the reason the Urban County Policy Board is discussing this right now, it's because of the impact, the CDBG investment that has been done in the building and the impact to the CDBG program, whether they spend another $200,000 as allocated with the program year 2025 funds for maintenance. That's actually what triggered the conversation originally, or the impact to the community development block grant program if it is sold for $1 to CMAR and get it off the books of the county, or if it's put on the open market and sold at a market price with those dollars coming back into the community development block grant program and impacting its timeliness piece. So that's the reason this is an Urban County Policy Board discussion. The maintenance and upkeep of the building in general is really outside of the realm of the community development block grant program and the UCPB. That's really on the the county side in terms of infrastructure and building maintenance.
Thank you.
Question to that? Sorry. Oh, somebody.
Go ahead,
Okay,
Victoria.
go ahead. Somebody else can go first. I've taken up enough. I can wait.
Nope, I think you were the one, unless I didn't
okay.
hear a second person.
Okay. So you mentioned the open market and the time frame on that. How long, if we were to put this up for market value, and what is that time frame? How long? What are the RCWs, or what's stated that how long we have to provide that open for the public, or to make bids on this piece of property?
For other buildings, we've traditionally left it open because it's considered sort of part of our bid process through procurement when we sell a county-owned facility. And it takes us a while to get all those bid documents together and then put it on the market. But we've traditionally left them on the market about 4 to 6 weeks to accept bids. And we publish them out there in advertisements and do that a couple times. So, and then after that, we award to the highest, most responsive bidder. And then do contractual negotiations. So it's a little bit of a process, but the actual out on the street, I would say, is typically a 4 to 6 week.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any last questions for Nick before we move on to the next components of this? Okay, thank you, Nick. I appreciate it. If you wouldn't mind hanging around just in case some more questions pop up, but we're going to go ahead and move on to part 3 here.
Hey, Councilor, Chair Young, Mayor Cole, and there are 2 hands that are up.
Sorry about that, Chair.
I don't see any hands. My apologies.
Hey, just a couple of follow-up questions from me on this too, as we're looking at this. So, and this probably is one for Nick. Probably a couple of these are for Nick. So, with regard to CMAR's presence in Battleground, and I know, like you said, something like you have to maintain a location within a certain proximity to other locations. So, if the county were to move on from this building and you were to have to find a new building, would you have to, are you required to stay in Battleground, or would you stay in Battleground as a presence there to continue serving the people that you have been for all of these years?
So we don't have to stay. We would like to. It is, and I just received some numbers while we were discussing. It is our most utilized location. We have about 1,000 visits per month, a little bit upwards of that. Some of our other sites have 500, as again scattered throughout Clark County. So I think because of that need, we want to stay as close as we can, but we do not have to stay in Battleground.
Okay, great. And then the CDS request that you have from the senator for 1.7 million, is that contingent? Is that for this specific building alone, or is that just general? Like, are you getting? Do you have leeway to use that on another location if you were to receive that funding, or does that go away if the county moves on from this building?
Yeah, Matt, I can comment on that. That was a proviso that we had worked with her office on, and it was specifically for this building.
Okay.
So it wouldn't carry on to anything else. And we really don't have any inkling as to whether or not we would get that funding at all.
Right.
So it's just kind of a pipe dream, and you never quite know if it would come to fruition or not. But yes, it would be this building only if it were to come through.
So earn on the side, going on what you're saying, Counselor, if you're saying that it might be a pipe dream and that CMAR may not get this, because we all know the situation at the federal level anyways, what I guess back to CMAR then, that would mean that the only investment you'd have in this building would be from our programming year funds, that $200,000, right? So would CMAR be making any additional investments in that building? Because it seems like it needs a whole lot in addition to that $200K. So I'm curious what would happen if you did not receive those federal funds.
Yeah, again, we've calculated out the costs for renovation. The building is a good size. We're not utilizing the whole space, and so if we acquired it, we would probably expand services so that we could do additional encounters, which would cancel out some of the costs. It would probably be a 5-year period where we would not recoup any level of profitability. I think we would be absorbing that, but long term, it would be there would be a benefit for us long term.
Great. Okay, thank you. And Councilor Young, just one last question, if I could, sir. Just back to you. If it is, I know you can't speak for the whole county council, but I do know this would have to go to county council for final approval, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Do you have any indication of where the council is at on this? Would they be, is the intent to honor this board's recommendation, or is there sort of other factors in there that
Well,
we...
it could go either way. I mean, we are an advisory board. We give recommendations to the council as a whole, and then they make a decision on it. We did have a couple discussions on it, and Michelle, maybe you can remind me how those went. It's been some time.
Yeah, so we sort of brought the same 3 options to the council in a work session. And I got the feeling after that work session, they wanted us to come back at a later date. They wanted to think about it a little bit longer. But I felt they were sort of leaning more towards keeping the building at that time if we could find some additional funds to put in it. But I know this board is recommending that is the least popular option. But you know, that was it was a very high level discussion. We didn't have a lot of the information that's come up since then. We were supposed to go back, you know, find out if CMAR could afford to buy it and renovate it. We were still waiting for HUD's approval, the final approval, to make sure they could sell it for $1, because that's a very non-traditional thing that HUD hasn't allowed us to do in the past with these type of grants. So the discussion we had, I felt it was leaning more towards keeping and seeing if we could find the funds to renovate it. But I think we've got a lot of additional information the next time we do go in front of the council. So that may sway, you know, allow them to look at it differently and determine which of these 3 options might be the most popular now. So
and I have updated the council on our discussions in this meeting, so they are aware of the discussion. I do remember that there was a sentiment of not being too excited about spending a lot of tax dollars on a property that will end up being worth less than the total investment between what it's worth today and the amount that you spend on a remodel. But that said, do you have any other questions? Otherwise, we'll go to Joe.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, go ahead, Joe.
Okay, thank you. My question is about the timeliness issue. So probably for Michael or Rebecca, specifically the timing of the timeliness issue, because if I recall correctly, there's some importance around May of next year and being timely at that time. And so if we could just get some clarification about the implications of if we were to sell the property at market value, but the funds, the sale didn't go through until after May. Is there any implication for when the timing of that sale might go through? Does it impact or not impact the timeliness issue, or does it, you know, potentially push out the implications of the timeliness issue further out if the sale doesn't happen right away? And then related to that, I just wanted to revisit what I thought was a good idea from Councilor Young last time about whether or not we could line up the purchase of a new building simultaneously with the sale of the existing building. And does that help us with this timeliness issue?
This is Michael Torres. Thank you for that question. So my understanding is that HUD will look at our account balances on May 2nd, and based on that, determine if we are at the 1.5 of our overall allocation or not. And it's very binary. Either we are or we are not. I think they would be blind to the fact that if the sale took place after May 2nd, that income coming in would not affect our meeting timeliness in that moment. If the sale took place before and we had that revenue come in, it would definitely tank our ability to make timeliness. In terms of we could use funds to purchase another building. If we sell the building at market rate, get that revenue, the Urban County Policy Board could decide to set aside those funds and make them available for the purchase of another building. Staff is neutral in these decisions, other than just making sure that you are aware of the program implications. And I think that if the county uses community development block grant funds to purchase another property, it will basically replicate the situation that they're in right now, where that property will then have the same restrictions of community development block grant regulations that the current property has, and the next tenant will have, Michelle will not be able to charge rent and use that for maintenance and stuff like that. I think from a program perspective, I think we have found out that you can put in requirements, like if you sold the property to CMAR or to another nonprofit entity, you can require them to do the maintenance in the as part of the lease instead of rent. So that's a discovery we've had from our conversations with HUD about whether we can sell it for $1 or not. But does that answer your questions?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so Rebecca, do you want to move forward?
Sure. So number 3 was Councilor Ferrer had indicated that she would be talking with the the city council to see if there was ways that they might be able to help CMAR relocate. And I wanted to check in with Councilor Ferrer to see if that had happened.
Here we go. So I believe we have Chris Swanson on the line. Can we, do you have any updates on that, Chris? I know that we had briefly discussed it. And I don't think we as a council got to fully have an engaged conversation, but it was brought up briefly. Do you have anything on this, Chris?
So my understanding is that council has not met as a whole to discuss this or come up with solutions, but I know that they're more than willing to do that. But at this point, I don't believe there's been any discussion that I know of. Certainly, I have all faith that they are willing to work on that, however.
Thank you for that update. So number 4 was to determine if the county can require a nonprofit to maintain a building if a new building was purchased and leased. As Michael alluded to, we did some initial research and it indicates that we can put provisions in the lease if we lease this to a different building purchased by CDBG to have them as part of not having to pay rent. They would just be paying the utilities. There could be provisions in there that requires them to maintain the property. So that is a viable option. Number 5 was to determine if the sale of the building can be held and contingent upon a purchase and relocation of CMAR. And initial research and discussing with Michelle, this also indicates that it is okay to do this type of option if we do sell the building at fair market for CMAR to relocate to a new location and have some time to do that. Discussion point 6 was determine if the county can do a targeted request for application to help a nonprofit acquire a space using CDBG funds as a grant. So we can do a targeted request for application. 2 CFR 200 requires a public solicitation, so we can't guarantee who will be selected, but would solicit it in a way that requires WIC services to continue for that location for at least 5 years. And then the building would be owned by the nonprofit versus being owned by the county. And then it wouldn't require the program income issues that we're dealing with when the county specifically owns the building. We would do a restricted use covenant for at least 5 years, which is the minimum requirement that HUD has. And so it would have to be used for an eligible activity. So WIC services specifically, but we can do a targeted request for application. We cannot guarantee what the outcome of that solicitation would be, and that would require doing a public solicitation, which will take several weeks to put together and then actually conduct the public solicitation. So that would take just a bit of time to put together. And then the last discussion point was what would happen with the $200,000 of the CDBG program year 2025 funds that we've already allocated to the CMAR building for renovations. And those funds would be reallocated in our next request for application process, which is currently underway, and we'll make funding decisions in March. And so with that, I will open up to the board for any questions about those discussions.
I do have one right off the bat. So number 6, so are we, if we sell the building and buy another one and you have a simultaneous transaction, to normal people, that's, we're continuing the same purpose, but for CDBG, it has to go through another process and open applications and stuff like that. You can't just carry the same program forward, just relocating it in a different building.
So there's 2 different situations that would be happening in what you're proposing. If the county were to sell the building at fair market rate and receive those funds, we can, without a public solicitation, purchase another building with those CDBG funds. And that's what would put us in that same situation of we cannot collect rent. Anything collected would be program income. You cannot do any maintenance on the building using those funds, that type of thing. So the same situation we're in now. What we could do is sell the building at fair market rate, collect those funds, and then do a targeted request for application or public solicitation process to where we would invite the community to submit applications to purchase a building by that agency using the CDBG funds as a grant. And then that way, it's not the county owning the building, it would be that nonprofit that would own the building, and we wouldn't be in that situation.
Okay, so it is a little bit of an extra step to have it belong to the nonprofit, have the property owned by the nonprofit. If the county continues ownership, it's a more seamless process.
Correct. We would not have to do a public solicitation specifically to purchase another building because we are the grantee, and we're able to do that under HUD regulations.
All right. So essentially, if we do that, then we can say to CMAR and WIC that this is what we are doing, right? And we don't have to open it up to other nonprofits and such.
Correct. It would still have to be HUD eligible activities because it's CDBG funds, and it would be in perpetuity again. So it would forever have to be a CDBG eligible activity. And then again, with the program income coming back to CDBG.
All right. Any other questions?
This is Michael. Just one addition to that is if you did that second part of you're using the revenue of the sale and using those funds for a target of RFA, saying like, we're going to use these funds, invite solicitation from a nonprofit to operate, purchase a building and operate a WIC program or do other eligible activities out of that, just be aware there are no guarantees, not only who will apply, but there will even be any applications. So you could end up in a situation where, CMAR could decide, well, like we get $400,000, $500,000, whatever it is, available to help us make that move. But really, math-wise, it makes more sense for us if we're, to just relocate to another facility. In which case, and I don't know that's the case. I'm just making you aware that this is a possibility. But in that case, we would have, strong possibility we'd have no proposals received, and we'd have those funds sitting in our account. And we'd likely have to reallocate them in the next request for applications round. We'd likely not meet timeliness in 2027, if that happened. But I think that would we would restart the time clock. So it would be like our first time not being timely. Like HUD would probably have strong issues with us on that, but it's a we would not be in the situation where we are now, where they're like, if you're untimely on May 2nd of 2026, you are likely to lose over $1 million in your CDBG allocation. And we are unsure if that would only be for program year 2027 or moving forward in perpetuity.
Okay. And then one last question that I just thought of is, we just established that it would be a little easier process to have the county own it, but that gets a little weird because we're expecting to use the proceeds of the sale plus the amount of money that CMAR would be able to contribute in terms of renovations, to purchase a building. I don't know how the county would own it with a $1.7 million investment from CMAR. So that gets a little sticky there. Am I seeing that right, or?
Well, there wouldn't be any additional investment, so the congressionally designated funds would not be a part of that type of. Those are specifically.
I'm not mentioning that. I'm just, CMAR has said that they're able to contribute 1.7 towards the renovation, and this whole thing kind of centers around if they're able to use that to invest in just a new property along with the proceeds of the sale of the building. So if that was the case, it would really need to be owned by CMAR and us and CDBG giving a grant for that. Am I right on that?
It depends on the process that is used. So if we do not do a public solicitation and request applications, and the county just takes the proceeds and buys another building, it's the county's building. The only way to make it not be owned by the county is to do a public solicitation. And at that point, we don't know who would apply for those funds. And we would only have the funds available that are the proceeds from that.
Right.
And there's not an assurance that that would be enough funding for a nonprofit to purchase a different location.
Right. And that's kind of what I was saying is $500,000 is not going to buy it'll buy another property that's got a lot of problems with it, maybe even, but it definitely won't buy a property that would be ready for CMAR to use, for sure.
One thing. Oh, go ahead, Counselor. Sorry. Go ahead.
The thing that just came to me when you said they won't have, you sell it, they have this $500,000 proceeds, so they won't have necessarily enough money or funds to purchase a new one. But I'm going back to previous mention of what CMAR had stated is they understand that 1.7 million is going to be what it takes to get this facility that they're at right now up and running. So even though if we give them $500,000 to help them purchase another location, well, they have just under 1.7 million to. Yes, that's just my thought that they said that they have the funds to fix this location. So they would have that funds to help them with the purchase of another building and getting it up and running for their needs.
Would someone from CMAR like to address that request or discussion?
Yeah. So I want to kind of point back to how CMAR was included in this conversation. So this was positioned to us as a way for us to be able to continue services in this location by us purchasing the site and continuing what we've been doing for the last 15 years. That was our intent. We have not, and we recognize here, and I realize that I'm being very repetitive in what I'm saying, but we recognize that if we're able to take this building for what it is right now, invest in the infrastructure, expand our services, we can get this to be financially viable for us. We have not explored looking at other purchases. That's not what we intend to do if this does not work out as us purchasing this for a very low rate. Our investments would be in the existing building and us acquiring the building and expanding services to make it sustainable and viable. If that does not work, we would look at our existing buildings to see if there's space that we can fit into pending approval from the state. So we don't want to invest in a separate building and incur the costs in that way.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, thank you for that. And I would just say, I feel like, well, Rebecca, what is our timing on this? I can't remember. Are we needing to make a decision on this right away, or do we have some time to work on it?
We don't have a specific timeline. We just understand that we needed to get a decision made that could take it to county council so they could make a decision. In part was to identify what we would be doing with the $200,000 of program year 2025 funds. Those dollars do need to get reallocated if we are not going to invest them. And that needs to be part of this next request for application process that is currently underway.
Okay, so Nick, I think I would ask you just a candid question. Is it not a possibility? I mean, if we were to move forward with selling the building, would you then say CMAR is not open to looking at a new facility? We'll try to figure it out with our existing facilities, or are you saying that it may not look like it pencils out at this point, but that, if we did look and found a building that worked, that, you made your 1.7 million investment and the county sold its building and invested that in the new building as in the form of a grant, is that something that you would entertain, or are you opposed to that?
I think we'd entertain it. That's just not what we had reviewed previously, but
okay.
we would be open to it.
Thank you for that clarification. Victoria, go ahead.
I appreciate this discussion, all the questions that are being made today. Truly, I do. So as a representative of Battleground, I feel like I should add a little piece to this before we decide whether we want to take this back. I can easily take this back to my council. We have a meeting on the 17th of this month, so I can ask for more details, but I feel pretty confident with how I will be representing my city today. We know that the building is in disrepair and it's in a dilapidated state. It's making it unsafe and it's an eyesore currently right now. The city of Battleground has adopted an Old Town revitalization plan. And we just did that this summer at the end of it. The city, we held a town hall where all the members of the community were able to come and discuss the final phases of that plan, where we had many citizens who attended that with many of our small businesses who own their businesses right there on Main Street and in Old Town. And many of them, obviously, they'll be benefiting from this plan. And they were very excited, still are to this day, when I go and talk to the business owners. This plan that we created for the council who will be weighing in on this decision, I feel like I should tell you the plan was, we were focusing on many things, including improving the pedestrian. We were focused on improving pedestrian access, traffic flow, adding parking capacity, and then make changes to beautify our city's downtown area, which will help promote the investment in our existing and our future businesses. So we're really hoping that I just felt like I needed to let everybody on this board know the plans that have been made around the WIC building. And so now you have a little bit more knowledge on what our needs are and how, if we choose to go a different route and sell it at the market value, that could really help us and benefit our local businesses and our city as well. Thank you.
Any other questions at all?
Oh,
What
I
about,
should also add, sorry, one last thing to that. I forgot to mention that we as a city we are interested in purchasing the WIC building, or not purchasing, but selling it at the market value, which I'm excited personally, and I'm sure everybody else would be too, is that this will help our program generate more revenue, putting that back into our program needs.
thank you for that. And I would just say, I think it's important to remember, the purpose of the CDBG funds, and that's really what we're supposed to consider. If we can make a decision that accomplishes those goals and it's what the city of Battleground wishes or needs, I think that's fantastic. But we do need to consider the overall purpose and need of the funding that we're looking at. So thank you for that. Are there any thoughts? I mean, does anybody have any idea on how we would like to proceed?
Councillor Young, may I ask a clarifying question of Councillor
Sure.
Ferrer? Councillor Ferrer, I'm not sure if I heard you correctly. Is the city of Battleground interested in purchasing that building?
No, sorry,
Okay, thank you.
fixed that word purchase. I was like, I mean sell. So yeah.
Thank you. Just wanted to clarify. I would also just add one more thing out there. If the board and the county council opted to sell the building to CMAR for $1, it would just have the minimum 5-year restricted use covenant, and then CMAR would be able to sell the building on their own volition after that period of time.
And I also feel like I need to add or remind what we've heard. I know that when we put this up for public solicitation, we don't know what the outcome will be, who will be purchasing this. It's been mentioned, if at all, but we have had interest on this property already by Maddox, who we as a city of Battleground have Maddox has already proven to be a good community partner with our city, and they have already made mention that they are interested in it, and they are interested in working with WIC as well. And again, I know that we can't decide right here. It has to go through a certain process, but I felt like that needed to be reminded that there is an interesting a party that's interested in purchasing it already, and that they have made mention that they would be wanting to work with us with our time frame and with the concerns of it as well, and that they would be willing to work with WIC to help them stay in business while they were looking for a new location. So I would be interested. So I'll stop after this and let everybody else take the floor. Sorry, I feel like I've taken a lot today, but it is in Battleground. Is that for me, I would be interested in selling it for the market value or the market rate, and reallocating those 200,000 for at the next meeting, having that discussion, and looking how we can possibly purchase another building for CMAR. Again, because I know that's not the intent or why they were brought into this conversation, but it seems like they may be, it sounds like they were favorable to continue those conversations. Thank you.
Thank you. My thoughts are similar at this point. Not so much about Battleground, but about the interest of the fund itself. I would like to see if we can explore feasibility, because like I said, I don't know if 1.7 million and $500,000 or whatever we end up selling this building for would be sufficient for their needs. I think that has to be explored. So I'd like to see that happen. Michelle, again, I continually am amazed at how different the private sector is from government. You said $3,000. I mean, normally a real estate agent will do a comparative market analysis for free. So are we not able to use a private realtor to get that information, or we have to go through some process because it's owned by the government?
Yeah, I mean, we typically have to go through a process to ask for an appraisal, because it's basically an appraisal of the property. And I've never had anyone offer one for free. I guess, if there's a company out there that wanted to volunteer to give a free appraisal to the county, we could probably possibly accept that if they have
Well,
no
it's not
other
a
interest?
yeah, it's not a full appraisal. It's just a market analysis and estimate of what its market value is to help you determine a price to list for.
Well, we usually do the full appraisal to get us that fair market to list for. That's been the county standard in the past. I'd have to check to see if we could do a different process of just a market analysis.
But then we have to do the appraisal to show that we're selling it for its true value. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Councillor Young, HUD regulations do not allow for us to allow for volunteer work when it comes to HUD related dollars. So we would have to make the investment to do the appraisal and the market value.
Understood. Mayor Cole.
Yeah, just jumping in real quick. Like just kind of in summary, the way I've seen this sort of unfold is there's three separate issues I think we need to consider. Number one is the highest and best use for that building that reflects the best public interest. Both, this board's job is to look at what is best for the CDBG program. That's the way I understand it. I do think that, it's clear that Battleground has an interest here as part of their community development efforts as well. I don't think that can be discounted, although that's not this board's purview. I think it's worth considering as far as when we look at what's in the best public interest. Second is just making sure that there is continuity of service for CMAR for the patients or the care it delivers in that market area. So it sounds like over 1,000 visits per month. I'm unclear actually at this point how much of those are telehealth visits and how much of those are in person. But I do think that there is an impact there that we need to consider as the highest and best use for, or the best way that that CMAR can continue to serve its patients as it has, because I think that this would impact people if we were to make a decision that was going to move away from this building as a home for CMAR. And then thirdly, the third issue, I guess, is just a reallocation of the program year 25 funds, that $200K. What I'm hearing from staff is that it would be hard to reallocate those. I do question that a little bit. I think that we could probably find a way. There's definitely enough need right now. I do know that would be a stretch, but I do think it's worth considering as well what we do with that, because that's what we're stewards over. But I do think that there is a pathway forward of all this, and kind of where I'm leaning towards is option 2 at this point. But I want to make sure that all those factors are considered.
This is Michael Torres. Mayor Cole, just wanted to clarify, we don't think that reallocating that $200,000, I don't think would be difficult. We just want to make the board aware that we will have to reallocate those $200,000 if you're not used in the way that was allocated, just FYI.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comments from the board? Okay, so I kind of heard the same messaging from 3 of us, and it sounds like we're interested in moving forward to see if, CMAR can locate a property that would be sufficient for their use, that would use the funding from the sale and the investment that they are able to make into this building as it were today, and see if they can come, find a probably a better place in all honesty. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think so. I
think
that's,
with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll agree.
Okay. Any other thoughts or questions before we move on with that? And, I would encourage anybody that, has interest, I'd say in the city of Battleground, people that are interested in purchasing that property. Anybody that's willing to help CMAR, if they wish to have that help, of course, maybe, people can help out and find a situation that works for everyone as best as possible. So
Agree.
all right, so let's go ahead and do that. Is that acceptable, Nick?
Yeah, so as far as any investments for another building, I think we can explore that. Okay. At this point, I can't commit to it, but we can absolutely explore it.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Then hopefully we can make some progress and bring this back up again in our next meeting. Are we meeting in December?
Our next meeting is scheduled for January.
Okay. All right. Okay. So thank you for all of the content and comments and questions. It was a really good discussion. It's an important issue. It's amazing how much time we spent on this one subject, but I think it is important. So let's go ahead now and move on to item number 5, which are program updates.
All right, so we wanted to let the board know that the program year 2025 CDBG and home grant agreements have been signed by county staff and submitted to HUD. We won't get a fully executed grant agreement until the government reopens, but it shouldn't take long after that happens that we will get our grant agreements for those funds. We are in the middle of the substantial amendment process to move CDBG funds from the Battleground Northeast Parkway building to the Housing Preservation Program. Public comments are being accepted through November 24th on that. Once the public comment period is ended, we can go ahead and reallocate those funds and move forward with them being spent through the Housing Preservation Program. We also wanted to give a quick update about the Vancouver Housing Authority Bertha's Place shelter. Last month, we talked about slightly changing the scope of work that they were going to do to help try to move the funds quickly through that project. They have done some more research and realized that it was going to, there would be some delays. So they are opting to go back to the original application, which would be funding the roof, windows, siding, and then including some of the architectural design components to help spend that money quickly. And they have opened up an RFI for an architect, and I have the environmental review about 90% complete for that project. So we'll be able to go under contract soon and move that project along. And then, as I've mentioned, we are currently underway with our program year 2026 application process. We have closed the pre-application process. Those are mandatory to move on to the full application. We received a total of 23 applications, and we've moved 20 on for the full application process. This list will be going out to all of the applicants along with the Urban County Policy Board later today. But this is just a list of what applications we received that have been approved to move on. There are 5 public service applications requesting a total of $445,000, but we only have $225,000 available. There are 9 asset and economic development applications requesting over $1.4 million. We estimate to have less than $300,000 available for that category. We have 2 multifamily construction applications requesting $600,000. And we have 4 tenant-based rental assistance applications requesting over $1 million. The tenant-based rental assistance programs, because we allocate CDBG funds to those programs, will impact the amount available for the asset and economic development category. So we won't really know exactly what we have available until we see what the scoring is by the board and bring that at the March meeting. We do estimate to have roughly $2 million available in home funds, which can also be used for the home buyer assistance under asset and economic development if needed. Staff will put together our recommendations for the funding at that March meeting based on the scoring by the Urban County Policy Board.
Great. Thank you. Any quick questions or comments on that? Okay, let's move on to quarterly reports.
Fantastic. To diversify what staff is doing and presenting to this board, we are going to have Noreen start providing the quarterly reports for you. She's going to do a very quick overview this time, just because we're running out of time for the meeting.
Thank you, Rebecca. She touched on a few of these during the program update, so I'm not going to touch on these for too long. VHA Bertha's Place, we have the environmental review underway for that, as well as for several of the neighborhood improvement projects. I'll just go on to the next one unless there are specific questions. Oh, okay. I didn't see it on the next slide. All of our business assistance programs are on track, and we are starting new contracts are underway for both Proud Ground and Evergreen Habitat for Humanity, and those should be executed soon. We can go to the next slide. And then for our TPER programs, all of them are going to be accepting additional funding for CDBG to help us with our timeliness. So all of those contract modifications are underway and all of them are on track to spend out, with Lifeline having spent out early, which is why they were put as not on schedule, but we did approve additional funding for their program due to helping more clients than anticipated. But that's a quick review. If anyone has any questions, just let me know.
I don't have any questions, but Rebecca, I don't remember receiving this in an email. I think we only got the agenda in the minutes. So would you mind sending these slides out to the board members?
Yes, unfortunately, we were a little late getting these done in time for the meeting, and I apologize, but we will do a follow-up meeting for and distribute those.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to 2026 trainings and presentations.
Yes, so this is the time that I start planning our next year's meetings. And so I wanted to check in with the board if there are any trainings or discussions that you would like us to target for the year. We do have some specifically planned topics. January through March is always our request for application process and along with our regular business. We will also have the point in time count done presentation by Council for the Homeless at the January meeting. We were scheduled to have the Section 3 training this month, but we rescheduled it and we'll put that together for you next year. And then there will be a BABA update, an update to the Build America, Buy America requirements. There's been some changes. There's some changes moving forward in Congress. And so we'll provide an update about that during the year next year. We have had a request by Community Planning, Clark County Community Planning, to provide a presentation to the Urban County Policy Board on the county's climate project. The Community Planning has been working to implement new state climate planning legislation to incorporate climate change into the county's comprehensive plan. And I wanted to see if that is something the board would like us to schedule for next year. And then finally, just our planned meeting schedule will be January, February, March, June, September, and November. We can have additional meetings as needed. And if there are other months you would like us to have, just please let us know. So with that, I'll open it up to the board if there's any topics that you would like us to bring to the board next year.
Any suggested subjects? I would just say that I would be definitely interested in hearing from community planning. You know, I think the overarching goal needs to be hitting each individual funding mechanism as well. So getting some direction and understanding for how we can make decisions that also contribute to that part of the county's comprehensive plan, that would be helpful. Any other thoughts? Okay, all right. Well, we have exhausted our agenda today. Is there anything for the good of the order? Anything anybody would like to bring up?
Staff will be sending that follow-up email. We'll also ask if you have any other topics or agenda items for next year in that meeting. So it gives you a little bit of time to process that question and see if there's anything else. We also want you to make sure that you review who your designated alternates are for this board. There are a couple of the jurisdictions that do not have any alternates right now. And so please make sure you review those. It just takes an email by the mayor to me and let me know that you have new people that you would like to have as designated alternates. The list of alternates is available on our website, and we'll make sure that all of this information is in that follow-up meeting email. Sorry.
Great. So we will see you guys next time, January 11th. Thank you all for your work. And we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.